Good afternoon, everyone, a colleague, delegates, and a member of the press. On behalf of the CBD Women's Caucus, we welcome you all to our press conference. No compromise, no delay. Women and girls demands action at SBSTA 27. This week, governments and experts are meeting to review progress and then the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. As women and girls from all over the world, we come with a clear message that the biodiversity goals can't be met without gender justice, human rights, and the leadership of women and communities. Today, we will be present our key demands for each of the major items under the discussion at Substats 27, from monitoring of the Kunming-Montreal GBF, climate change, to invasive species science and risk assessment. Our message is simple and united. Um, my name is Fatima Al-Arabi. I'm from Morocco, and I'm the project officer and communication lead for the CBD Women's Caucus. Without further ado, uh, let me present our esteemed speakers who are speaking on behalf of the CBD Women's Caucus. Starting with the item 3 on the global review of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, we have with us Ms. Cristina Egenter from Italy, WWF International, and a CBD Women's Caucus member of Board of Directors. I may ask her to start sharing our demands for this item. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome all. I think we need to share a few critical points about this item on planning, reporting, and review, monitoring and review of the achievement of the collective progress on the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. This exercise, the global review that will be completed at COP17 in Armenia next year, cannot be just a technical exercise. It must be a political moment of shared collective accountability on how we deliver on the GBF. The CBD Women Caucus emphasizes that this process must integrate multiple sources of evidence, including voluntary commitments and contribution from non-state actors, indigenous people, local communities, women organizations, and youth. It needs to be inclusive, gender responsive, ensuring the full and effective participation of women, youth, indigenous people at all stages. And most importantly, incorporate the findings of the midterm review of the Gender Plan of Action that is ongoing. And this is important. Why? Because the implementation, we know, is mandated to be a gender responsive implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And this is one way, or the best way, to measure whether implementation at national level has been gender responsive. We also called for an informal technical dialogue among parties and rights holders and other stakeholders to exchange data, lessons, solutions, gaps, and challenges that are faced by everybody. We need a global report and a global review process that reflect the whole of society and human rights-based approach principles in Section C, and our shared responsibility in achieving the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing the key demands for this item. And now let's move to the item 4 on EPIS and transformative change, where our speaker who is leading this item from Rwanda, and she is also active member with CBD Women's Caucus. Please, the floor is yours, Scovia. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Welcome, everyone. This is item 4 of the Substar 27, specifically.
May I ask you to raise your voice or just closer? Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Buenos dias. This is item 4, that is on the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which is IBES. And this must move, as the previous speaker on item 3 said, must move beyond not only here, but what are the decisions that will be made that will also help and shape during the next scope. So that is why we are focusing on moving forward, especially beyond gender-blind approaches. The next global assessment must systematically integrate gender equality and gender justice in both its policies and its content. And transformative change is not only about participation, that we, as we all know and understand, it is about shifting power. We need to ask ourselves, we need to ask everyone that who decides on this, who benefits from the conservation, and most especially, who is bearing the costs. The CBD Women's Caucus is calling on parties to ensure that the IBES findings, reports, and the CBD processes are aligning, especially in its processes and its programs. And here it is on 1, embedding rights-based and gender-responsive approaches across all work programs. Secondly, evaluating biodiversity policies, not only by ecological outcomes, but also seeing by how they redistribute power, they uphold the rights of women, of youth, of indigenous people and local communities. And how do they share benefits? And then the third one, how are they aligning the financial and economic systems with equity, phasing out all the harmful subsidies, and promoting gender and inclusive economic transitions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scovia. And now let's move to the item 5 on biodiversity and climate change, where our co-lead for this item, Valentina Figueres Martinez from Venezuela, she is on behalf of Global Forest Coalition and active member of the CBD Women's Caucus, and she is here wearing the hat of the CBD Women's Caucus. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you for being here, everyone. I think that it's very interesting to have this compilation of reflections from a gender responsive perspective, because you can have an idea of how the different items are in line. And actually, Escovia's key messages, actually the caucus key messages, I think that go pretty much in this effort to have some cohesive narrative, right, in terms of the demands. And climate change and biodiversity, it's a very complex issue within both conventions, climate and biodiversity. It's always a contentious negotiation, and we understand that parties are really doing a big effort to achieve some decisions that are substantial. And of course, considering that in 1 month we have the climate COP, right? So this policy coherence needs to be there in the decisions that we are having. In that sense, the CBD Women's Caucus consider that it is fundamental that any integrated, coherent, and consistent approach to achieve the goals of both the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and the Paris Agreement are guided by the principle of transformative change to address the structural drivers of biodiversity loss. Just in line with what Escovia was demanding, right, in terms of the IPES assessment, it is important that we are able to address the root causes, and also recognize in this policy coherence process that it must be gender responsive, it must be rights based, and it must be inclusive for indigenous peoples, local communities, women in particular, and youth, right? From a very intersectional approach. A second element that the caucus consider important is that, well, it has been reiterated in several other press conferences and events, and is the fact that both climate change and biodiversity impact women, girls, and gender diverse people disproportionately. There is a significant amount of research showing that we do have differentiated gender impacts. It is important to put that conversation into those discussions. In that sense, the coherence between both climate and biodiversity agendas must ensure this gender responsiveness. Another important element is the issue of resources, right? Because we all know from following these policy processes that decisions really need to mobilize resources for implementation, correct? And direct access to funding for women and girls, for indigenous peoples, local communities. It's also a particular important item in this decision, and also goes in line with previous demands that the caucus has been raising even at COP16 in Cali. Another element is the fact that nature-based solutions, offsets, and market-based approaches do not replace the urgent need for deep, rapid, and sustained emissions reductions. UNIA Resolution 55 on nature-based solutions is very clear about that. And it's an important element to consider in the discussion, in the negotiations, and in particularly inclusive narratives that we are trying to build here as civil society organizations. So parties must comply with human rights obligations, ensuring that those actions are consistent with Section C. Section C is a precious element within the KMGVF to guide gender responsive and human rights based approaches. So we believe it is very important to include Section C together with Target 23, which was not a gift. This is something that we really fought for during, all over many years. And finally, parties must also take into account CBD decisions on climate-related geoengineering, as reaffirmed in Decision 1222, and ensuring the full implementation, including through the joint program of work of the RIA Convention. We're happy to continue this discussion. I would like to invite anyone to check the different positions that we have in this QR code, to check the website, and of course to reach out to the Women's Caucus, the coordination, and all the experts that are here in Panama to have exchanges regarding the different items, and in particular the biodiversity and climate change one, because it's very contentious. So we're here to help and support.
Thank you so much, Valentina, and thank you so much for the reminder regarding visiting our website to check more the full position of the CBD Women's Caucus. It's available in 5 languages, and we are going to update the website whenever there is any news. Thank you so much. Now let's move to the item 8 on invasive alien species, and we're Alumita Sekinere from Fiji joining us. She is president of Itoke, Women in Conservation from Fiji, and also CBD Women's Caucus member. The floor is yours, Alumita.
Thank you, Fatima, and thank you to my colleagues for sharing the gender inclusivity in the work of biodiversity that we work towards in here. Today, I want to emphasize on the vital role that women from indigenous people and local communities play in the fight against invasive alien species. As women, we are not just observers. We are scientists, farmers, and guardians of our ecosystems and biosafety. Participation must be co-creative, meaning we are active partners in all efforts, not just consulted after decisions are made. Invasive species threaten not only our biodiversity, but also our cultural heritage and livelihoods. Therefore, we call on parties to recognize indigenous and local women as leaders in monitoring, management, and eradication programs. It is also crucial to protect our traditional and local knowledge from biopiracy and digital exploitations, ensuring that our wisdom remains ours and is used ethically. We urge the integration of a One Health approach, one that reflects ecological, social, and gender dimensions into all technical guidance. This holistic approach is essential to safeguarding ecosystems, communities, and cultural identities. In line with the goals of the Global Biodiversity Framework, the active and meaningful participation of women and girls is a right, not a privilege. Women and girls, youth, indigenous people, and local communities must be fully involved in decision making, planning, and implementation processes, bringing diverse sources of knowledge to the table. Finally, protecting biodiversity must also mean protecting women's rights and knowledge systems. Only through inclusive, right based, and accountable actions can we ensure a just, equitable, and sustainable future for all. Thank you, and Vinakabakalevu.
Thank you so much, Alumita, for this insightful intervention. And now let's move to the final item on scientific and technical needs, led by Pamela Tapia from Mexico. And she is also CBD Women's Caucus. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone here. So, the message in this item is simple: strong science underpins strong policy. The science without gender is incomplete science. So, for too long, our approach to conservation has been gender blind. We were focusing on counting trees, but not protecting the women who takes care of the forest of the world. We have mapped the ecosystem, but not the traditional knowledge held by women that is essential for protecting them. Women hold and protect the knowledge. They are guardians, and they also share that knowledge with the next generation. This is not just a matter of social justice, it's a critical failure in our scientific approach. We're trying to solve the most complex puzzle of our time with the half of the pieces missing. So, if we continue with this path, we are setting ourselves to failure, to be honest. This is why Agenda Item 6 is so important. It's our chance to build the right tools to close those gaps. So, for that, the petitions that we have as a women's caucus are the next ones. First, to sustain and strengthen the gender and biodiversity program of work, ensuring it is well resourced and accountable. This must be the core part of our scientific agenda and a strong guide to implement the global biodiversity framework. We need to operationalize the gender plan of action. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have with concrete deliverables actions. Second, we need to integrate sex disaggregated data and gender responsive methodologies into all biodiversity monitoring and research, especially when we design indicators. We need to focus on impact indicators to track progress, not to achieving goals. We don't need to, and yes, it's important to know if we achieve that goal, but what will be happening next? We need to create that kind of indicators. And it's obvious that the science can do that at this time. Third, take into account women's traditional, local, and scientific knowledge as central to technical and policy innovation. Women as holders of traditional knowledge, as scientists, as community leaders, we need to be part of the decision-making processes. We are not just in an environmental crisis, we are in a social crisis, and we need to remind that. We cannot be solved everything in these rooms. It will be solved on the ground. And in communities across the world, women are on the front lines. Gender responsive science enhances equity, data quality, and policy impact. If women's knowledge and their rights remain invisible, the solutions that we're trying to build here will be failed. And today, in partnership with IUCN, the CBD Women's Caucus is officially launching a new policy brief assessing the gender responsiveness of national biodiversity strategies and action plan. After a 18 human rights screening through a codification process in the MBSAPs and a gender assessment tools, we are presenting our findings. And to be honest, our findings are a wake-up call. There is a massive implementation gap. Most plans lack of concrete targets, dedicated budgets, and specific indicators to measure progress on gender equality. Our analysis shows that good intentions are not becoming effective actions. Again, this is a wake-up call. We are on time to make transformative changes. The policy brief is available at the CBD Women's Caucus website. I will invite to all of you to read it and to use it to demand real, measurable, transformative action. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all our esteemed colleagues and speakers. We now open the floor for questions from journalists, the audience in general, and observers. Please state your name and your question, and which of our speakers do you want to hear the answer? Thank you. We have here, may I ask for the mic? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Cassandra Smithies with Global Justice Ecology Project, and my question is for the Women's Caucus in general, but specifically for Valentina. I'm wondering if you can tell us what the impacts of biodiversity and carbon offsets with animals and forests are on women and girls. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your question, Gija. Yes, thank you for your question. As I mentioned, there is a significant body of evidence showing the disproportionate impacts of climate change and biodiversity loss, right? But if we document and we see the full picture of social and structural inequalities, women are always in the worst place regarding access to good policies, right, on the ground, healthcare, access to basic services, access to mitigation measures when climate change comes, right, and destroy their crops, etc., etc. And also the issue of care, it's also not visibilized. It actually, there have been some efforts to include the care element within the Lima Work-Off Program, part of the Climate Convention, right? But it's not in the equation, let's say, you know? And those impacts are there because women, they are the custodians, they are the frontline caregivers of biodiversity, whether it is animal protection, whether it is wildlife protection, whether it is food sovereignty, seeds, all the traditional knowledge usually comes with the force of women. Without women, biodiversity cannot strive, and hence biodiversity outcomes cannot be shown to the world. So we need to understand the intersection of gender and the gender impacts of biodiversity loss, of climate change, so that we can actually create policies that respond to that need, right?
Thank you so much, and I'm so sorry for the interruption, as we need to have another question from the audience.
Thank you very much. I congratulate my fellow women in biodiversity. I am so happy to be here. And I, more than a question, I want to point out this that you are talking about, that science is not complete without women, that science information is not enough to save biodiversity, the planet, and the people on it, because we are in SBSTA, and we have already heard the first plenary talking about science and science and science, which is great. But what about the rest of the knowledge that is there? Indigenous peoples, local communities, youth that watch the world differently, and obviously women. So I am very proud that we have such strong speakers that are going to put that in the discussions, because women are the bearers of knowledge, the transmitters, and we see the world differently. So it's not a question, but it's a congratulation, and we know that we are very well supported by the Women Caucus here at the CBD SBSTA meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eda. And we have another question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And my name is Elisa Marchi from Indigenous People Law and Policy Program, University of Arizona. And I have a question for any of you that wants to answer. So what is your message for the governments ahead of COP17? Thank you.
I will give the floor for this question. Maybe we can answer this question, then we can move to another question. Yes, I will give this question to Christina, as she is the member of board of directors of the CBD Women's Caucus.
Thank you for the question. Is actually, I think all the messages sent by my wonderful colleagues and women and gender activists are very clear. So is participation in the sense not of number of women at government meetings, but is about taking into consideration their views, their perspective, their knowledge, their science, their information, their data into shaping policy making and decision making. This is the real change, game changer, that the transformative change that Valentina needs in all kind of domains, and but it's absolutely fundamental. I will keep it at that because I think it's quite clear. Please.
Yes, please.
Yes, and also maybe I would add the relevance of really mobilizing resources to implement the GPA, the Gender Plan of Action. That it's also, I believe, an important message, right, to take to COP16. Sorry, to COP17.
Thank you so much. And this is ahead to the midterm review. This item will be discussed in February in Rome in SBA 6 and 7. Yes, 7.
Nairobi.
It's in Nairobi. It's changed. Thank you so much for the correction. And now let's move to another question from the audience. Yes, please state your name and your question.
Hi. Actually, I don't really have the questions, but um, so hi, my name is Nishanand. So I'm from Greenpeace, and I'm working mostly with the coastal community, with the women and youth in the coastal areas, not just in Thailand, but other part that we have the project with. So it's honor to be here and listen to all of you, because what we recognize as well, that the role of women, especially in the fishing industry, they're quite not very much present, especially women fishers. We work with the small scale women processor as well, and it's good to bring this gender issue into the CBD, because most of the women will be the one that impacted and most likely be the one that um, will lead the solution as well. So very honored to be here and listen to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your intervention, and we are glad to have you here with us. Any other question from the audience? Okay. May I ask our speakers if you have anything to add? Yeah. Okay. Maybe Scovia, something to share? Yeah. Please be concise as we are wrapping up the
Yes.
press conference.
It is to add on what my colleagues just shared on the question that Lisa asked. What are we telling or requesting the parties that are here at SBSTA? Maybe we won't repeat all the demands that the Women Caucus are requesting, but then it is just a question maybe that is posed to everyone and most especially to the parties. The goals, the year that we are set, which is 2030 is around the corner. Valentina was saying that the numbers of COPs are becoming many, but then are they ready? Are we ready to leave this place, to leave Panama with incomplete actions? Are we ready to make sustainability an option? Are we ready to keep the speeches, or we are ready to put them into actions and actions on ground where people and nature meet? So that is a form of question that I can ask the parties and everyone that is attending SBSTA and all the decision makers and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Scovia. And I would love to thank uh, uh, my wonderful colleagues for being here and the people who are staying in the as audience. What we have heard in this room is clear, and united, the women and girls are not waiting. We are not waiting because we are leading as across every agenda item at SBSTA 27, from monitoring of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework to addressing climate change and invasive species and scientific cooperation. The message of the CBD Women's Caucus is unwavering. Biodiversity policies that ignore gender justice will fail. Science that includes women's knowledge is incomplete, and decisions taken without women and girls, indigenous people, local communities are neither just nor effective. As we move toward the midterm review of the Gender Plan of Action, we remind all the parties integrate gender justice into every aspect of the global biodiversity framework, guarantee direct access to financial resources for women and girls, driving change on the ground. As my colleagues mentioned, we need to allocate the resources to implement this roadmap and ensure accountability through gender disaggregated data and transparent system of finance and reporting. Our call is not only for inclusion, it is for transformation, a transformative change that shifts the power, values every form of knowledge, and protects both nature, human rights. The CBD Women's Caucus is called for a future and see that the future where biodiversity and justice advance together. Where living in harmony with nature also means living in harmony with one another. So, from this space in Panama, our message to the world is simple and urgent. No compromise, no delay, gender justice now. Thank you so much. Yes. I will seize this opportunity to ask you and invite you all to follow our websites for further informations about the CBD Women's Caucus position, and also to stay updated about our news and our positions and our work. Also, we invite you all to follow our social media account, CBD Women's Caucus. Thank you so much.